Welcome back to the blog. Today we're going to talk about an original source which I referenced months and months ago in conjunction with another book, and I want to now talk to you about this this particular resource. It's a journal. It's John Smith's journal from 1607, and it's funny because, you know, I tell this a lot, but you know, I went to a really reputable, I got good grades in high school, and I went to a private university, and I was really not exposed to original writings until I finally found a liberal arts school. And so I just have fallen in love with that and really feel like it's the best way to go. Sometimes they're a little bit harder to read, but you can read a little bit at a time, and it's never the same experience as when you hear from that person themselves. Now, I'm going to provide a couple different sources for you, but it's called John Smith's Starving Time in Virginia. If you put those words in, you'll find them, and sometimes you'll find a short little excerpt. There's lots of different sites that have short excerpts, and then there's longer ones. It's not super long. It's from a larger work that is when he told the whole story of their time in Virginia. But it's kind of in a journal format. It's his journal. And I don't know if it's taken directly from his journal, but it's his original writings. And he's telling the story firsthand from when he landed on that first boat in 1607 and what that first winter was really like. He talks about being captured. He calls the king of the Pamunkeys, and how they guarded him and fed him. He talks about how, he mentions how they slipped into some of the people slipped into some cannibalism. And of 500 original settlers, only 60 survived. You don't have to read a lot of it to get a sense of what he's saying here. And one little thing, important little tidbit I want to let you know about. It might be confusing as you read it because he'll talk about himself in the third person. He'll say Captain Smith or Smith this or that. He's talking about himself. And so he went on to become, I can't remember the guy's name, but he took off, and Smith was in charge for a year and a half, and the settlers just wouldn't do what they were supposed to do. They wouldn't work. They were the wrong group to send over, was the bottom line. And so he had to deal with them, and he had to deal with the Powhatan Empire, so King Powhatan. So the one that I referenced several months ago, The Rise and Fall of the Powhatan Empire, I mentioned John Smith's journal, and now I'm recommending as an original source that you go directly to his journal and do some reading, and also watch the book review of The Rise and Fall of the Powhatan Empire to get a little bit more information specifically about that work. It's real small, easy to read as well, but man, if you spend time in both of those readings, you will have a fantastic understanding of those first few years of the British in America. He says, this is how it starts out, being thus left to our fortunes, it fortuned that within 10 days scarce 10 among us could either go well or stand well. Such extreme sickness and weakness oppressed us. And thereout none need marvel if they consider the cause and reason, which was this. While the ship stayed, our allowance was somewhat bettered by a daily proportion of biscuits, which the sailors would pilfer to sell, give, or exchange with us for money, furs, or love. When they departed, there remained neither tavern, beer, house, nor place of relief, but the common kettle. And so he goes through, if you can get yourself through some of this older language, had we been as free from all sins as gluttony and drunkenness, we might have been canonized for saints. But our president, Wingfield, would never have been admitted for engrossing to his private use, and he goes on. And so he begins by talking about its starving time in Virginia. They were literally starving. They could find very little to eat, and they were burying. He says at this point they had buried 50. In this time we buried the rest, seeing the president's projects to escape. They're trying to escape, and those that anyway they were living on fish, and so he goes on and talks about where they were getting food from, and they were trying to fish, and they were trying to bargain with the Indians, but the Indians were hostile, and so he goes on to talk about his experiences there. I think it's really valuable also if you work with youth or children at all. If you'll go through some of this John Smith and some of this Powhatan, you could show some pictures of this time period, because we have a lot of original drawings. They brought an artist and you can find a lot of those in The Rise and Fall of Manhattan Empire. You can find a lot of pictures of John Smith. There's the wonderful story of Pocahontas, and you can read those original excerpts and stories and ask a lot of questions about what would it feel like. Imagine that you're there. How would it be? You have no resources. You don't have time to plant and grow things. There's nobody to trade with. I mean, just imagine that you're there. And that, I think, goes a long way toward appreciating the abundance, the great abundance that we enjoy, and especially for understanding and appreciating those that have gone before, those that have paved the way for the great abundance and luxury that we enjoy today, the sacrifices that they made, the depravity they experienced. And there's just nothing like reading the original source for really feeling it and knowing what it must have been like. Use your imagination and imagine that, and talk to your children or your youth or students about how they would have felt and what it would have been like. So Starving Time in Virginia by John Smith, as an original writing and a journal. It is so valuable, so fascinating to read, and not very long at all, but very worth your while. If this information was valuable, please pass it on to a friend, like us on Facebook, join our email list, and join the crusade to build character through the classics. We'll see you next time.